we need to be very clear about what the purpose of development should be. The most common goal that every Bhutanese seeks in life is happiness. And that happiness, if it happens to be the main goal or desire of every Bhutanese, then it should be the role of the government, role of the state, to create conditions that will enable people to pursue happiness successfully. You see, it is something that the people themselves must pursue, but the government's responsibility is to create conditions.
The best way to understand the reforms and which reforms are needed and how they should be implemented is to understand what people want. So this is very important variable to be successful in the political economy reform.
It's not only a question of political parties. Today is a question of citizens. So we have to give information to citizens for better decision, for better understanding on the public life. It's not anymore a question for just a few people. It goes directly to the center of the concept of democracy. As much people know what's going on as you are building citizenship.
Today, civil societies are launching thousands of local initiatives to measure progress.
There's no doubt about it that you cannot make a good decision if it is not the decision, if it's not rooted in good data, in solid information, solid research. You can make it the decision, but eventually what you decide will collapse on that basis. I do think, however, that it is not enough to have good data and to have information. I think it's important, clearly. What it is important is to make sure that you can communicate the product so that it is understood by the population, accepted, becomes almost by itself, by the population's requests, a vehicle for further enhancement and further potency.
For many people, statistics is just like notes, and statisticians come and show, look, very interesting, they say, and we don't understand it, so we have to build an instrument so we can play the statistics, and that we have here. And you can see United States, they have highest carbon dioxide, the rest of Europe is coming up there.
Not only do the figures need to be accurate, but they must be presented in a dynamic way to see how our world is moving, to understand better the realities in which we live.
You see China just a fact-based worldview we can do. I don't think it should just be tactically, directly to be used as a tool in a political debate. It should understand the world you live in.
Organizations from all over the globe are getting involved. But how can this movement grow even larger? How can we make sure the work will be carried out? Where do we go from here?
We approved the Istanbul Declaration. We have a blueprint. We have the concept. And now the next steps have been plotted.
We've been trying to create networks of networks so that they can learn more quickly from each other, develop common languages, common methodologies to address these problems. And I think there's a very interesting challenge for the OECD, whether it can move somewhere beyond the traditional model, essentially being based in just governments and academia, to essentially mobilizing what we call collective intelligence.
We hope to send a strong signal to the whole world, in a sense, saying, look, here there is a movement going on. We have discovered this movement. We want to work with them. We want to serve these initiatives. Let's do it in various ways. And one of them is to try to create a platform where these thousands of initiatives can have a dialogue in the internet era.
I think the world urgently needs to have a post-2015 strategy. It needs to be thinking about what we need to do in order to eradicate poverty, and you have to start with the poorest.
Whenever we have incomplete data, of course, it poses problems. But we also know, or we let the users of statistics know, that as a developing country, we cannot afford to provide all the data that they want.
Work with the OECD on developing transparent, clear set of data on measuring human progress, with the UNDP focusing more on the poor countries and the OECD focusing more on the more advanced and the middle-income countries. In that way, a cooperation between UNDP and OECD on measuring more clearly in a way that citizens can understand better, in a more reliable way, I think will be a very concrete outcome of this Istanbul conference.
If we don't do an effort at measuring actually what's going on, we lose the chance of documenting, evaluating and documenting the successes and the failures. And then we condemn other countries either not to take advantage of successes elsewhere, or worse, to repeat mistakes that others have made. So I always like to say that if we are to reform, we must inform, or else we will deform.
This is the transparency process, and once that, somebody used the phrase, sunshine is the best disinfectant, and once that is in a society, you can't turn back.
It is time to build new ways to measure the changes in our modern societies, because it is by measuring progress that we can foster progress of policy making and of democracy as a whole.